right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Someone say?
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer their respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the
personality of Godhead.
personality of God, and Narayana, Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srimad Vyasadeva.
Jai. Shrinvatam Svagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyanta Sloya Bhadrani Virunoti Suhitsatam.
Shri Krishna, the Pastor of Godhead, who is Paramatma in every one's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses the heart of the material enjoyment from the devotee by prayer of thoughts to hear his messages with charge, virtuous and properly heard and chanted.
Jai. Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki.
Regular attendance on classes on the Bhagavatam and my running service to the pure devotees. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. In loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact.
Jai. So very good. We paid our obeisances to the Bhagavatam. It's been some time since I got to read at least this portion of the Bhagavatam. Because I wait for you guys. But just to kind of recap, and we might need more recap, we had Kunti praying to Krishna to sever her family attachments. And actually it was one of my prayers when we visited the family for the holidays as well. To sever the family attachments and ultimately, have undiverted attention just unto Krishna. This is the topmost thing. This is Krishna consciousness. If the consciousness isn't considering, well, what's the family doing? What's the friends doing? What's the job field look like? What's this? What's that? No, what does the Lord want, and how can I be of service to the Lord? So ultimately, that's what Kunti prays. And then she started glorifying Krishna with so many choice words. And then ultimately, that was it. And then the Lord, he mildly smiled. He took all of Kunti's prayers, and all he gave her back was just some mild smiling. She just does a whole chapter of just beautiful prayers, wanting to be completely surrendered, praying for calamities, praying for all the problems in her life, because the problems are what had her forced her to surrender and turn towards the Lord. And then now that they're all gone and he solved everything, now she's glorifying the Lord and praying that even her own family attachments, sever all of them, even though her family's all devotees. I mean, I was just with my family for some time, and it was very hard to be around my family members because they're not they're not devotees, and it's just very difficult to not be around devotees because there's a power to the collective consciousness. And when everybody wants to act in, and they might not know any better, and it's not like anyone wants to act in ignorance, but if you're not in knowledge of something, what ends up happening is you'll do things in ignorance. And so if there's a collective energy of ignorance, and then you're stuck in the middle of that collective energy in ignorance, then you start to act in ignorance too. And it's just inevitable. That's why your association is so powerful. That's why ashram living, you're so fortunate actually to be able, most of you at least, are able to be in ashram living. And you've probably seen this, in the business, people know this. So actually, ultimately, Kunti wanted to be detached from the family relations. Why? Because in the midst of the family, everyone begins to associate with each other on the bodily platform. Yes, you are my little boy. Yes, you are my baby sister, my big brother. Whatever the relationships are, but that's not factually who we are. We're a spirit soul. Yes, we're riding the body of big brother or little sister or dad or mom or all these things, but this is not who we really are. But in the midst of the family, these relationships are very, very much become prominent. And so, Kunti, she prays to be cut from this and have undiverted attention unto the Lord. So, Krishna smiled at hearing her prayers. He gave her nothing else. But just that one smile of Krishna is all actually, it makes one so ecstatic that that's all you could need actually. Just to give the Lord pleasure. A mild smile. It's not like he was like, oh my God, how wonderful. Just a mild smile. And then he can go on. But that smile was as enchanting as his mystic power. That's what it said. It was very enchanting, and that was enough for Kunti. She felt very satisfied that she made the Lord smile. If we could make the Lord smile, our life would reach perfection, actually. If we could just do one thing to make the Lord smile. You might think, well, that's very easy. But actually, it's not that easy, because the Lord is known for being completely detached from everything. Completely detached. So, He lets every bad thing and every good thing happen to everybody in the material world. And He remains completely aloof, not affected by it. So, there is a way that you can get Him to be affected by it, and that's only out of pure love. It's the only thing that can move the Lord. So Kunti's love moved the Lord to a mild smile. You'll see later in the Bhagavatam what the love of even more advanced devotees than Kunti, how this moves the Lord. So anyhow, we're not there though. We're on step one. So let's see if we can make the Lord have a mild smile. That would be the perfection of our life. But we'll see. If we look right now on the altar, the Lord has at least a mild smile on all of the deities. So they're all mildly happy with us at this point. So like this. So everyone repeat after me text 45. Tam badham ityupamantya pravishya gajasavayam striyascha swapuram yasyan premnaragya nivarita tam, all those, badham, accepted, iti, thus, upamantrya, subsequently informed, pravishya, entering, gajasavayam, the palace of Hastinapur, striyacha, other ladies, swapuram, own residence, yasyan, while starting for, premna, with love, ragya, by the king, nivadita, stopped. Thus accepting the prayers of Srimati Kunti Devi, the Lord subsequently, means afterwards, informed other ladies of his departure by entering the palace of Hastinapur. But upon preparing to leave, he was stopped by King Yudhishthir, who implored him lovingly. Purport. No one could make Lord Krishna stay at Hastinapur when he decided to start for Dwaraka. But the simple request of King Yudhishthir that the Lord remain there for a few days more was immediately effected. This signifies that the power of King Yudhishthir was loving affection, which the Lord could not deny. The Almighty God is thus conquered only by loving service and nothing else. He is fully independent in all his dealings, but he voluntarily accepts obligations by the loving affection of his pure devotees. So this is nice. let us chant to the Gurus. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-Shalakaya Chakshura-militam Yena Tasmai Shri-Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya-Manovishnam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Dati Svavadantikam Vandeham Shri-Guru Shri-Yuta Padakamalam Shri-Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri-Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunath-Vanditam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Visha Anvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namaskute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhani Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnuvaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Srinivadi Pashyate Deshatarine Jai. All right. So oftentimes when I chant to the Gurus, I get revealed a message that I maybe missed out on in previous speaking. And just to give a little clarification, you might say, well, why did you say like that? And why would Kunti say like that, to be removed of families? And why did you say that, being around anyone other than devotees is very difficult? And, just to elaborate on that a little bit more, people who are not devotees, they are not familiar with the ultimate truth that God is everything, and that ultimately one's time, energy, and focus, if not focused on God, it's focused on ignorance instead. So as someone who is not a devotee has not reached that platform of overcoming ignorance. So being around those who have not overcome ignorance, they will promote the doctrine of what? Sense enjoyment, which is a result of ignorance. Yes. Because they have not overcome ignorance, they will promote the activities of ignorance, and then when you associate with them, you get impacted by that idea, and then maybe your ignorance, if you have been completely rid yourself of it, which is a process, you will be inclined more towards ignorant activities. So this was the case of Kunti. She recognizing even her loving sons who were devotees, pure devotees, and her family members who are Krishna's relatives, so glorious that Krishna comes in their family, but even she's realizing, oh, this family attachment, this is not good. So she prayed to be severed from this. So we're not callous, we don't hate family, that's not, I don't hate my family, I love my family. But actually, because I love my family so much, it's even more disturbing to watch them act in ignorance. It's even more disturbing, actually. And also, it's even more disturbing when I find myself acting in ignorance, because that's the collective energy of, it's ignorant to think that, yes, I'm so pure that if anywhere I go, I'll completely transform the environment. No, anywhere I go, I will be transformed by that environment. So that's actually the case. So I felt that very, very viscerally this past week when we were doing family duties. But I'm very glad to be back with devotees, people who are trying to associate with the Absolute Truth. And so I don't know, I was just kind of chanting the prayers to the Gurus, and that was kind of the revelation in my heart that, okay, maybe you should clarify this, especially if someone's listening online. Like, oh, family is everything. Why, family is it's dharmic. There's a certain religious element, honoring thy father and thy mother, honoring your relatives and family, giving all respect to your family members. But at the same time, you cannot, for one on the path of spiritual realization or spiritual elevation, you can't wait for all of your family members to come along with you. Because chances are, it's very rare to take to this, chances are only one in a family may take. It's very rare to have a whole family who's very sincerely taking to this type of thing. So anyhow, yes, just thought I would kind of clarify that, just to not sound callous, and even though I am callous, but not to be callous. So anyhow, thus accepting the prayers of Kunti, the Lord informed other ladies of his departure, but upon preparing to leave, he was stopped by King Yudhishthira, who implored him lovingly. King Yudhishthira is a very topmost personality. What are some of his qualifications? From you?
He's righteous.
He's very righteous. He's known as Dharmaraj, the ruler of Dharma. Actually, he was the son. He was born of Kunti by Yamaraj, the ruler of justice in the material world. All right, so he's quite righteous. What else? What's his position in the world? King of what? He's king of the whole world. Yeah, he's the king of the whole world. So if anyone has a shot at maybe stopping Krishna from going to Dwarka, it's Yudhishthira. But actually, that couldn't even stop Krishna, because Krishna is the so-called king of every single world and every single universe. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What would the king of one tiny planet and one tiny universe do? But actually, why is he able to conquer Krishna? Yes, he's known as one of the 3 Haridasas in the Bhagavatam. There's 2 Haridasas even greater than him, Uddhava and actually Giriraj Govardhan. Even greater Haridasa than Yudhishthira. But Yudhishthira is known as one of the 3 Haridasas mentioned in the Bhagavatam. He's known as a servant of the Lord. All of his activities are in pure service to the Lord. Even having the most impressive sacrifice of all time, the Rajasuya sacrifice. He only wanted to do so to glorify Krishna as the topmost personality, because that's like the ritual, that you would glorify, you would honor the topmost person in the assembly in Krishna. And if you remember the killing of Shishupal wanted to blaspheme Krishna during this time. And there was the whole pastime of the killing of Shishupal. That'll be mentioned in the Bhagavatam in multiple places, not just in the 10th canto, but it's elaborated in the 10th canto. So anyway, this is why he has a shot to move Krishna, because he is a very dear servant of Krishna, has an intense amount of love for Krishna. So this is also, why you should pray for people. When people are, maybe they haven't so much merit with the Lord, and they don't really do that many pleasing activities to the Lord. There's not much love for the Lord. But what happens is sometimes the devotee can love that person. And if the devotee loves that person, they can pray, they can beseech the Lord, please help this one. I know, what they're doing is not good. But please, I beg you. But the devotee has the capability to move the Lord with love. That's the only thing that can move the Lord. Kunti had these beautiful, wonderful prayers. It wasn't all the jnana that she spoke that moved the Lord. It was the love that she spoke with, and gave just a mild smile. But this is all, this could be the perfection of our life, actually, if we can make the Lord just smile once with our love, with our activity. So, Just thought I would mention that. Let's continue reading though. Text 46. Vyasadyer Ishware Hagyaye
Vyasadharishware Hagyaye
Krishnenad Bhuta Karmana Prabodhito Piti Hase
Prabodhito Abhitihase
Nabudhyata Shucharpita
Sujarpita
Vyasa Adyay. By great sages headed by Vyas.
great sages headed by Vyasa,
Ishvara, the Almighty God. Iha, by the will of. Gyai, by the learned. Krishnena, by Krishna himself. Adbhuta Karmana, by one who performs all superhuman work. Prabodhita, being solaced. Api, although. Itihasai, by evidences from the histories. Na, not. Abudhyata, satisfied. Shucha arpita, distressed. King Yudhishthir, who was very much aggrieved, could not be convinced, despite instructions by great sages headed by Vyas and the Lord Krishna himself, the performer of superhuman feats, and despite all historical evidence. The pious purport, Prabhupada's going to explain. It doesn't seem like it makes sense, but in context it does make sense. The pious King Yudhishthir was mortified because of the mass massacre of human beings in the battle of Kurukshetra, especially on his account. Duryodhana was there on the throne, and he was doing well in his administration, and in one sense there was no need of fighting. But on the principle of justice, Yudhishthir was to replace him. The whole clique of politics centered around this point, and all the kings and the residents of the whole world became involved in this fight between the rival brothers. Lord Krishna was also there on the side of King Yudhishthir. It is said in the Mahabharata, Adi Parva 20, that 640 million men were killed in the 18 days of the Battle of Kurukshetra, and some hundreds of thousands were missing. Practically, this was the greatest battle in the world within 5,000 years. This mass killing simply to enthrone Maharaj Yudhishthir was too mortifying. So he tried to be convinced with evidences from histories by great sages like Vyas and the Lord himself that the fight was just because the cause was just. But Maharaj Yudhishthir would not be satisfied, even though he was instructed by the greatest personalities of the time. Krishna is designated herein as the performer of superhuman actions. But in this particular instance, neither he nor Vyas could convince King Yudhishthir. Does it mean that he failed to be a superhuman actor? No, certainly not. The interpretation is that the Lord, as Ishwara, or the supersoul in the hearts of both King Yudhishthir and Vyas, performed still more superhuman action because the Lord desired it. As supersoul of King Yudhishthir, he did not allow the king to be convinced by the words of Vyas and others, including himself, because he desired that the king hear instructions from the dying Bhishma Dev, who was another great devotee of the Lord. The Lord wanted that at the last stage of his material existence, the great warrior Bhishma Dev see him personally and see his beloved grandchildren, King Yudhishthir, etc., now situated on the throne, and thus pass away very peacefully. Bhishma Dev was not at all satisfied to fight against the Pandavas, who were his beloved fatherless grandchildren, but the Kshatriyas are also very stern people. And therefore he was obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because he was maintained at the expense of Duryodhana. Besides this, the Lord also desired that King Yudhishthir be pacified by the words of Bhishma Dev, so that the world could see that Bhishma Dev excelled all in knowledge, including the Lord himself. So this is a very nice concept here. Everybody tried to convince Yudhishthir that no, it's okay, including Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is an incarnation of the Lord, the greatest of sages. Krishna himself is the Supreme Lord, and he's trying to convince Yudhishthir. But still, he wasn't able to convince him. And so you think, well, how is the Lord not able to do anything? He is. Actually, if he really wanted to convince Yudhishthir, he would have fully convinced Yudhishthir. But actually, he had a plan for a greater pastime, and that's going to come up next, this next chapter of Bhishma. Bhishma was a great devotee of the Lord, but due to circumstances, many circumstances, he took vows, he took vrats, he had to. There was no way, he would ever really leave the world, because he had like this immortal boon, pretty much, that he would only choose when he would die. No one would be able to defeat him in battle, except how it happened, with the Lord himself intervening. So many things had to happen for Bhishma to die, but also Bhishma is a great devotee of the Lord, and so he deserved the Lord's presence, and he deserved the Pandavas' presence, who he had a lot of affection for at the time of his passing. So Krishna was arranging everything to happen in such a way that they were going to then take the conversation to Bhishma. So if you ever see that the Lord is unable to do something, he has some other plan. Like for instance with Ashvatthama, he told Arjuna to kill Ashvatthama. But at the same time, he wanted something else to happen. So this is often, like for instance when he met with the gopis, he told all the gopis, go home, go back to your husbands. Why have you come here? Why have you run away from all your family? Why have you dropped everything and run to me? Go home. It seems like the Lord is a little duplicitous. But he is in the topmost sense, where he's giving an option, but he arranges that the devotee, for the sake of Leela, for the sake of deeper exchanges of love, he will kind of bait, you could say. He'll like bait the devotee. So you're like, all right, I'm going back to Dwarka, and now everyone's getting worried. He knows what's really going to happen, but at the same time, he's churning out the love. So now Yudhisthira is aggrieved. No, you cannot leave yet. I'm so disturbed, this, that, and the other. And so now they're going to say, okay, we have to hear from Bhishma about this. He knows all of the proper dealings of what's right and what's wrong. He'll tell you whether this is just. So text 47. Aha Raja Dharma Sutta Chintayan Suhridam Badham Prakriten Atmana Vipraha Sneha Moha Vasham Gataha. Aha said Raja King Yudhishthira, Dharma Sutta, the son of Dharma or Yamaraj, Chintayan, thinking of, Suhridam, of the friends, Vadham, killing, Prakritena, by material conception only, Atmana, by the self, Vipra, O Brahman, Sneha, affection, Moha, delusion, Vasham, being carried away by, Gata, having gone. King Yudhishthira, son of Dharma, overwhelmed by the death of his friends, was aggrieved just like a common materialistic man. O sages, thus deluded by affection, he began to speak. Purport. King Yudhishthira, though he was not expected to become aggrieved like a common man, became deluded by worldly affection by the will of the Lord, just as Arjuna was apparently deluded. So when devotees get bewildered, and it happens, when a great devotee gets bewildered, it's actually by the plan of the Lord, because he has some leela in which the devotee, like Arjuna was such a topmost devotee, there was actually no reason for him ever to get bewildered by ignorance. It's not like Arjuna was just like this limited, fallible being that like, oh man, Krishna had to come in his time of need. Actually, Krishna set up the circumstances in such a way to actually bewilder Arjuna. Why? For the benefit of us. Similarly, Yudhisthira is of the same nature. This bewildering is for the benefit of us, for the benefit of those who hear about this pastime, hear about these leelas. It's not that they're like, they're so much more qualified than we are. But by them also experiencing what we might experience, then we can actually learn how to resolve these issues that we're going to naturally deal with in our ignorance. So, a man who knows well that the living entity is neither the body nor the mind, but is transcendental to the material conception of life. The common man thinks of violence and nonviolence in terms of the body, but that is a kind of delusion. Everyone is duty-bound according to one's occupational duties. A Kshatriya is bound to fight for the right cause, regardless of the opposite party. In such discharge of duty, one should not be disturbed by annihilation of the material body, which is only an external dress of the living soul. All this was perfectly known to Maharaj Yudhishthir, but by the will of the Lord he became just like a common man, because there was another great idea behind this delusion. The king would be instructed by Bhishma, as Arjuna was instructed by the Lord himself. Wow, this chapter is longer than I thought. Let's do another verse. So this is, yes.
I'm confused with the timeline, like the Bhishma Dev.
Bhishma Dev fell on the 10th day of Mahabharat war, right? So then the 18th day the war ended, 8 days later. So what has happened? So you're saying, well, this is after the war. Bhishma was lying on a bed of arrows for I think 50-something days, and he left. He'll actually leave very soon because what's happened now. The West celebrates it as December 21st. Is the beginning of the what is that constellation?
Solstice.
The winter solstice, December 21st, they celebrate it. But actually, in astrology, and actually if you measure the sun, how it's moving, you notice the sunrise keeps getting later and later. It will keep getting later and later for some time, and then at around January 17th or so, it will begin to move north. And it will actually, the days will get noticeably longer and longer and longer and longer. So at this time, that's actually the auspicious time when a soul would leave the body, when there's more light. Light is returning to the world. And so this is, so Bhishma was waiting. Remember, he could choose when he could die. So the timeline, the Gita was, Gita Jayanti is celebrated on an Akadashi, but it's Ramapad Swami, he gave a really valuable, claim that it was actually on a new moon from historical evidences. Okay, so that would put it 7 days before Gita Jayanti. So that was earlier this month, maybe at the beginning of this month. The Gita was spoken, the battle was fought for 18 days, and then it'll be almost, it'll be 50-something days later, and we're in between that time now. Yeah, 58 days. So we're in between the time the battle has ended, and now they're going to Bhishma. And then Bhishma actually will instruct, I think, for 58 days. And then he leaves afterwards. So this is right after the battle has ended. Does that make sense?
Bhishma Panchak, those 5 days.
That actually has nothing to do with Bhishma's actual, the time he fasted.
So, if I may.
Yes.
So during Kartik month, the last 5 days are said to be very auspicious because the Kartik season is ending. So devotees tend to fast for that. And since Bhishma did such austerity for 58 days, so in memory of, or it says from inspiration of Bhishma's austerity for liberation or for devotion, in terms of fasting, people use it as a symbol and fight for the last 5 days of Kartik. As Bhishma did the austerity for devotion, people use Kartik last 5 days as process for doing austerity. So it's a symbol of austerity for people. It's not the 5 days of
Yes.
Bhishma doing that.
We had Piyush do the research on this because I was also confused also about this this year earlier. I was like, well, this doesn't line up, and you're right, it doesn't line up. But that's because the Bhishma Panchak isn't the actual factual days. But the last 5 days of Kartik are even more auspicious than the days that Bhishma fasted. But to honor Bhishma, they do the Bhishma Panchak because he did this type of fast. So anyhow, does that answer the questions? Okay, very good. Let's read at least one more verse, okay? Aho me pashyata jnanam hridirudham duratmanaha parakshasyaiva dehasya bhavyo me kshonihir hataha. Aho, oh, me, my, pashyata, just see, ajnanam, ignorance. I love the aho, that's very nice. Hridi, in the heart, rudham, situated in, duratmana, of the sinful. Parakyasya, meant for others. Eva, certainly. Dehasya, of the body. Bhavyaha, many, many. Me, or no, me, by me. Akshohini, combination of military phalanxes. Hutta, killed. King Yudhishthir said, O my lot, I am the most sinful man. Just see my heart, which is full of ignorance. This body, which is ultimately meant for others, has killed many, many phalanxes of men. A solid phalanx of 21,870 chariots, 21,870 elephants, and 109,650 infantry, and 65,600 cavalry is called an Akshahini. And many Akshahinis were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Maharaj Yudhishthir, as the most pious king of the world, takes for himself the responsibility for killing such a huge number of living beings, because the battle was fought to reinstate him on the throne. This body is, after all, meant for others. While there is life in the body, it is meant for the service of others. And when it is dead, it is meant to be eaten by dogs and jackals or maggots. Very nice. He is sorry because for such a temporary body, such a huge massacre was committed. So he's lamenting. Yes, it seems worldly why he's lamenting. But ultimately, it's because he's so compassionate. He's also highlighting, Krishna is allowing such a thing to highlight the good qualities of a devotee, to be compassionate. They don't want to harm anyone on their behalf. And he's feeling very guilty. Even though, yes, I'm sure he could see all of, just like Arjuna, he could see that how sinful Duryodhana and his camps were. But he was seeing the good in Bhishma and Drona. How can I kill such respected teachers? So this is the devotee. They tend to overlook all of the faults in others, even if there's mountains of faults, and they see the good. So this is actually something to work on, especially for myself. So I think we'll stop there. The main reason we have to stop is because I had to pee for some time now. I really have to. So, thank you guys for doing Bhagavatam. We'll, get back to a good routine. Meghna, thank you for being with us this morning, inspiring me to get up early, because I was going to set my alarm for half an hour later. And so, no, it's good. I should get up early. So anyway, thank you for joining online. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Keshava Gopal will be coming. He'll be joining us. He'll be interspersed in the Bhagavatams in the morning, giving some Bhagavatam class, which will be nice. And then he'll be with us for 10 days, and then we'll have his wife and another devotee from Prabhupada Village also joining us. So that'll be nice. We'll just need to cook for more people. But it'll be very nice to have more devotees present. So thank you for joining online, and we'll see you all.